Companies are building bigger factories than ever before to make products and goods we all use. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the 15 largest factories and facilities on Earth. Number 15. Boeing Factory, Everett, Washington State. Boeing is one of the biggest aircraft producers in the world and builds at least 400 commercial planes each year. That's no mean feat, considering how complex each of the vehicles are. And to make all of this possible, the company has several gigantic factories. The biggest of all is in the city of Everett, Washington, and was originally constructed in 1967 to build 747s. In the time since, it's been continually expanded and now covers an area of 98 acres and includes the largest building in terms of volume on Earth, which has a whopping 472 million cubic feet of interior space. Now used to manufacture 747s, 767s, and 777s, more than 30,000 people work on site, and it's such a huge facility that there's enough room to fit the whole of Disneyland in there, with a further 12 acres left over. As well as the manufacturing base, the Everett site also has its own fire department, daycare center, security team, and fitness center, and it also welcomes more than 150,000 visitors a year to its store, theater, and factory tour. Number 14. Volkswagen Wolfsburg Plant, Germany. Volkswagen is one of the largest car manufacturers in the world, so it seems fitting that the company operates one of the planet's biggest vehicle factories. Located in Wolfsburg, Germany, it was originally built in the 1940s. The town around it was built to house all of the workers that were needed, and still to this day more than half of the residents are employed by VW. The factory itself covers an area of 70 million square feet, and in 2019 produced around 700,000 cars, which is on average 3,500 every day. To do this, the plant has 63,000 workers, and since 1945, more than 45 million vehicles have been built there, representing all of Volkswagen's most famous models. There's a dedicated 47 miles of roads and 37 miles of railway track to serve it, and it's on the shore of a 200-mile-long canal that connects it to the coastal ports. This means that transport infrastructure is able to accommodate the 2,100 trucks and rail cars that deliver more than 21,000 parts there each and every day, and take the produced cars where they're needed as soon as possible. It's the perfect example of German efficiency and manufacturing prowess, and it's been instrumental in VW becoming the worldwide brand that it is today. Number 13. Constellation Bristol, UK. Constellation Brands is an American Fortune 500 company that produces and sells beer, wine, and spirits around the world. And their operations are so vast and complicated that they own a series of huge facilities to ensure everything goes to plan. One of the biggest is in the city of Bristol in the UK, where some of the statistics are almost unbelievable. Taking 3 years to build, it covers an area of 858,000 square feet and has a roof large enough to park 4,000 cars on top of. Responsible for about 15% of the total wine and beer market for the UK, the facility is able to hold 57 million bottles of wine. But it's not just a warehouse. For ease of transport, the company delivers branded wine to the venue in 6,600-gallon vats and bottles them on site. Amazingly, around 800 bottles are filled per minute, and during the process, each bottle is photographed 18 times to ensure they've been filled properly. When running at full capacity, the factory makes enough to fill 350 trucks per day and relies upon the latest technology, such as 5.5 miles worth of fiber optic cables and forklift trucks that are automatically guided by lasers. Number 12. Meyer-Werft Dockhalle 2, Peppenberg, Germany. Located in the city of Peppenberg, Germany, on the River Ems, the Meyer-Werft shipyard is one of the largest in the world. It first opened in 1795 as a place that specialized in the construction of wooden vessels, upgraded to iron vessels in 1874, and is now exclusively a yard that builds luxury cruise liners. To accommodate the enormous size of these ships, the company built the Dockhalle 2, which is the fourth largest building on Earth, and it's so large that the latest Disney and Royal Caribbean International vessels were built inside it. The company has 3,300 employees at their shipyard alone, and the Dockhalle 2, after this extension, now measures 1,653 feet long, 410 feet wide, and 246 feet tall. Despite the sheer size, the facility can still only produce just 3 cruise ships a year, and once they're completed, they're released into the river before completing the 22-mile voyage to the ocean. Amazingly, despite this size, the company already has plans for further expansion to keep in competition with newer shipbuilders elsewhere in the world, with the Dockhalla 2 only just big enough for the current class of ships they're building there. And if the industry keeps going the way it is, it'll soon be required to make ones that are even bigger. Number 11. Longhua Science and Technology Plant, Shenzhen, China. Smartphones and computers are now almost vital to life in the modern world, and they're in so much demand that around 375 million smartphones alone are sold each year. To keep up with production, the companies responsible for the devices have built vast factories that churn out thousands per day. And one of the biggest of all is the Foxconn facility in the Shenzhen region of China. The Longhua Science and Technology Plant is where the vast majority of Apple iPhones are produced, and its size is crazy. Often referred to as the Foxconn City, it covers an area of 1.2 square miles and has 15 different factories, huge accommodation complexes, 4 swimming pools, a fire department, entertainment and shopping centers, a bank, restaurant, and even its own television network. While this may seem like a lot, it's what the company has realized is the most efficient way to get the work done. They employ many hundreds of thousands of people there, most of whom live there or in the surrounding villages. And with them working 12-hour shifts 6 days a week, the company has to provide everything else they could possibly need within easy reach. The success of this facility has, of course, been subject to controversy because of the conditions the workers are exposed to. And it's yet to be seen if any other companies decide to try to replicate this model. Number 10. Austal, USA, Blakeley Island, Alabama. Austal, USA, an American branch of the Australian company, is one of the country's biggest shipbuilders, and with a huge shipyard on Blakeley Island, Alabama, has been responsible for building a number of important ships, and more recently some of the latest design U.S. Navy vessels, thanks to a special dispensation that allows them to do so. The headquarters is set on more than 5 million square feet of land, which includes the factory, assembly yard, admin offices, and support facilities, over an area of 734,000 square feet, with the rest left open for development as needed. This setup has worked well for Austal because in late 2021 they signed a new arrangement with the Navy to build 2 Navajo steel ships, and to complete this they're currently building a brand new factory to the exact specs needed. Spearhead-class ships, Independence-class ships, and various other combat vessels have also been built there, as are high-speed passenger catamaran ferries and various other custom designs too. Number 9. Hyundai Motor Company Ulsan Factory, South Korea. If you drive a car made by Hyundai, there's a good chance that it was built at the company's base in Ulsan, South Korea, which is one of the largest car production facilities in the world. Built over an area of 161 million square feet, there are 5 separate factories on the site, which are responsible for building 14 different models that are then shipped around the world. As well as these, there's also the engine and transmission factories and a future-facing fuel cell factory too. It takes 34,000 workers to keep it in operation, who are split into 2 shifts, and at any time there's at least 1,000 workers sleeping on site. Producing 1 car every 10 seconds, which adds up to 1.5 million a year, the factory isn't even working at full capacity, as it's only open 5 days a week and shuts down for a full week every summer. Hyundai has invested heavily in worker well-being and provide 24 on-site restaurants, accommodations to quarter the workforce, health centers, water features, and green spaces. In a sign of how busy the plant is, it also has its own dock that can hold 3 ships, each of which transport 4,000 cars and takes 10 hours to load, which means loading is a 7-day-a-week operation. Number 8. General Electric, India. In 2020, General Electric ranked as the 33rd largest company in terms of revenue in the United States, and this comes from being active in 4 main industrial sectors: aviation, power, renewable energy, and digital. They are therefore involved in producing a wide range of different products, and in 2015 announced the opening of a new facility in Pune, India, which was described as being a brilliant factory. Costing $200 million to build, it covers 67 acres, which is approximately the same size as 38 football fields. Inside, the 1,500 workers share production lines, but the genius is in the way the factory has been designed, that it can quickly change between the products that it makes. This means that one moment they'll be fabricating 3D printers and laser inspection technology, and the next they'll be making jet engines, wind turbines, and water treatment technology. As well as being a huge facility, it's also one of the most technologically advanced with the way the systems connect to the supply, service, and distribution networks, meaning that the factory is always making exactly what the company needs for its various interests globally. Number 7. NASA Vehicle Assembly Building, Kennedy Space Center, Florida. Anyone who's visited or simply driven past the Kennedy Space Center in Florida will be familiar with the NASA Vehicle Assembly Building, which is one of the largest buildings in the world, by far the biggest single-story building on the planet, and has the 4 largest doors ever made. Construction was completed in 1966, giving it a floor area of 8 acres and a height of 526 feet. And it's there that NASA puts all the various components together to build spacecraft before transporting them a short distance to the launch pads. At first, it was designed to assemble the Apollo Saturn V space vehicles, but in the subsequent years it was also where the space shuttles were connected to their external fuel tanks and rocket boosters. It was so vital that the structure would properly protect the craft inside, it took almost 100,000 tons of steel, and the foundation was made up of 30,000 cubic yards of concrete. It's able to withstand the forces of hurricanes and tropical storms, and despite being more than half a century old, very few significant repairs have ever been needed. Activity at the building reduced following the closure of the Space Shuttle program, but it's now in operation again as the place that the new Space Launch System Heavy rocket is being assembled. Number 6. 2800 Polar Way, Richland, Washington. In Richland, Washington, there's a dominating building on the landscape that's unavoidable as you pass through. And despite how amazingly huge it is, it's possibly what's inside that's the most impressive. Operated by Preferred Freezer Services and known as 2800 Polar Way, it was built for an estimated price of $115 million, opened in 2015, and is the largest refrigerated warehouse and the biggest automated freezer on the planet. Astonishingly, the warehouse is 125 feet tall and has an area of 505,000 square feet, of which the vast majority is refrigerated. It's capable of storing around 350 million pounds of frozen food and processes 2 billion pounds or 1 million tons per year. Even more of a surprise is that all of this is made up of fruit and vegetables, with no protein at all. And because most of the operations are automated with its own monorail, only several hundred workers are actually needed. Recently, following its success, the company has announced plans to further expand the facility by a third, a project that's planned to cost $35 million and provide room for an extra 45,000 pallets. There are also now plans to build further warehouses like this in Texas and China, which Preferred Freezer Services hopes will establish them as the go-to provider for frozen produce storage. Number 5. Belvidere Assembly Plant, Illinois. Originally opening in 1965 in Belvidere, Illinois, the Belvidere Assembly Plant is operated by Chrysler, where it produces the Jeep Cherokee. Built over 280 acres of land, the factory provides 5.3 million square feet of floor space. It's next to the Chrysler Satellite Stamping Plant, which provides sheet metal for parts on the production line, and since it first opened, Belvidere is thought to have made at least 10 million vehicles. The body shop in the plant is fully automated with 780 robots that can change their tools as needed in less than a minute. The technology involved means that the factory is able, if needed, to produce 3 models of vehicle at the same time, while testing a 4th, although the company rarely pushes it to that capacity. As well as the main production floor, the plant also has a 38,000 square foot simulation room, which is where a miniature production process can be mocked up to ensure the positioning of workstations and even the amount of distance walked by workers can be predicted and made more efficient before being rolled out across the whole factory. Number 4. Samsung Factory, Bac Ninh, Vietnam. Samsung is one of the leading electronics manufacturers in the world, and with such a huge business selling smartphones and tablets, has invested heavily in production plants across the globe. Half of what it makes, though, comes from its factories in Vietnam, and the largest of these is in Bac Ninh. Costing an estimated $2.5 billion to develop and build, it covers an area of around 272 acres and currently produces 17 million devices per year, which is on average around 46,000 a day. The company employs around 65,000 people at the facility, with roles available for people with all levels of training and experience. Despite being one of the most efficient and productive electronic factories on Earth, it's still not enough to fulfill the overwhelming demand for certain products. And this means that within the next few years, it's destined to get even bigger. Samsung already has permission to invest a further $1 billion to increase the output by 47%, and work on this expansion is well underway. Number 3. Jean-Luc Lagardère, France. In the 1990s, Airbus, one of the world's largest aircraft manufacturers, embarked on a project to go head-to-head with Boeing 747 to offer a brand-new supersized long-distance passenger aircraft. The result would become known as the A380, and it broke records for being the largest commercial jet ever created. By 2003, the company already had 100 orders, but all of its existing manufacturing facilities were simply too small to be able to effectively construct them. With parts being produced all around the world, a brand new complex was built in Toulouse, France, which was called Jean-Luc Lagardère. 35,000 tons of steel were used to construct the core structure of the plant. And to ensure outside conditions don't affect what's happening inside, the assembly lines were surrounded with 2,500 tons worth of steel cladding. The main A380 assembly hall measures 820 feet long, 377 feet wide, and 151 feet tall, with a total area of 1.3 million square feet. All of the 254 A380s that were built were completed there, and it's almost a shame that the project turned out to be a failure for Airbus, with the company having to write off billions of dollars after being unable to sell enough units. A380s are now no longer being made, and the plan now is for Jean-Luc Lagardère to take on a more varied responsibility, with the newer, greener aircraft designs destined to be built there. Number 2. Aalsmeer Flower Auction Building, the Netherlands. The Netherlands is by many regarded as the flower center of the world. Long associated as the leading producer of tulips, the flower industry there is absolutely colossal. And even if you've seen the countless fields ablaze with color as you travel through the country, it's hard to comprehend how important the industry is to the country until you've seen the flower auction building in the town of Aalsmeer. It's not only the largest flower auction on Earth, but it's also the 4th largest building on the planet, covering an area of more than 5.5 million square feet. It's not just flowers that are grown in the country that are sold there either, as some of the most powerful buyers have a permanent representation there. Producers import blooms from far afield as Ethiopia, Kenya, Colombia, and Ecuador, as well as from across Europe and Asia. It's said that 43 million flowers are sold there on a normal day, with volumes increasing by as much as 20% during times of the year around Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. And each flower that passes through the facility undergoes more than 30 quality checks and is then graded. The auctions themselves here are high-paced and frantic. By using the Dutch auction system, auctioneers begin at a high price and work their way down until someone's happy to the agreed figure. In most cases, it takes just a matter of seconds for hundreds or even thousands of flowers to be sold, and it's so mesmerizing that many people just go there to see it in action for themselves. Number 1. Gigafactory, Nevada. It's amazing that, even though it's a relative newcomer in the automotive industry, Tesla is already one of the most valuable car manufacturers. But the company still produces far fewer vehicles than most others, which is something that they're trying to change. Instead of having a series of smaller factories around the world, which can often create supply chains that are notoriously difficult to manage and are extremely susceptible to world events, the company is instead building a few enormous facilities that it calls gigafactories. The biggest of them all is Giga Nevada, or Gigafactory 1, and it's in Story County. Covering an area of 4.5 square miles, its main focus is on producing and repurposing the lithium-ion batteries that are used in its cars. It opened in 2016, and the plan was that by 2020 it would be producing the equivalent of 35 gigawatt-hours of cells per year, as well as the 50 gigawatt-hours of battery packs, which would be enough to supply the construction of 500,000 Tesla cars. This output, for perspective, means that this is one factory that will be able to produce more batteries than were made worldwide in 2013, which shows just what an increase in capacity it represents. Despite those huge numbers, there's still plenty of space on the Tesla-owned site for expansion of the Gigafactory, and recent comments by Elon Musk suggest that's exactly what's planned for the coming years. There's already far more demand than Giga Nevada can cater for, and output is expected to be increased by as much as 50% by the middle of the decade. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.